And when I pressed the button to see the DNA, he wasn't cruel enough to make me drive to Liverpool that day on the computer screen. And this is the same computer screening. It literally was 100% DNA match.
Man,
wow.
Yeah. With so that was the DNA match with the semen that I showed you on the shawl, with the shawl that we dated pre-1888, that we placed at the murder scene, and knew that that shawl was taken to the murder scene by the murderer. So that was the murderer's DNA. So we had the answer. Literally now, I can't believe it's so long ago. It's like 7 years now. But it was that moment of, oh my God, we've done it. Now, the one thing I never, you can remember back then, me and Yori lived in a bubble. There's only a few of us that knew this story. And we did have a reporter trying to infiltrate us to see what was going on. And we were all very radio silent, to say the least. So there's only 4 people I could call that night to say, guess what? I just solved the Jack the Ripper mystery. They were all on voicemail, so there was no one I could share the story with. I'm sitting there with a huge bombshell with not being able to do anything about it, And my wife at the time just sat there and went, well done, and she went to bed. We're divorced now, by the way, but yeah, it's a case of, it was like, oh my God, can't you just share this moment? And so, yeah, that was a very special moment. And it was last night. Yeah. 7 years ago.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome, man.
That is so cool.
I mean, and I think what really amazes me is you're talking about the 130-year-old shawl and how well semen's well preserved on it. And, I understand blood, but there's semen. That is absolutely astounding.
Yeah, you said something about the look being on my side. Do you know why it stayed in there? Because it was only rudimentary plant dye. It wasn't textile, so it wasn't the material and the dye we've got today, which is protected. It sort of absorbed in through the plant dye, which is why it stayed there. So that was a huge piece of look.
That is absolutely amazing. Oh my God!
And to get 100% match.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess for one, it takes a lot to render me speechless.
Yeah.
I always have something to say, but the whole concept just kind of takes my breath out of me, because I'm like, to know that you have found this, to know that when you bought it, you suspected it was Catherine Eddowes' blood on it, but you didn't know for sure.
No.
And you surely didn't know that there was semen on it.
No, well, no. It looked like it'd been bleached out in some way. We didn't know at the time when I bought it. No.
Yeah. So you had no idea, really, when you bought this shawl, that it was going to lead you directly to the murderer.
Absolutely, yeah. I had no idea.
To take that leap of faith, I commend you so much. And we're not just talking about some murderer. We're talking the biggest around. I mean,
you don't get bigger than Jack the Ripper.
Absolutely not, man. This is
it's something that has been discussed since it happened.
Yeah,
it was a sensational news story then, and you talk about in your book how the press kind of ran with it and sensationalized it even more.
Yeah,
and it was a sensational news story then. It's an even more sensational news story today, because everyone in the world knows it.
Yeah.
I mean, you say key words, and this is true because I've looked it up. You Google London and Whitechapel. Don't mention anything about Jack, and it instantly brings up Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
It's synonymous. We talked about this last night. When people say the word Chicago, it's synonymous with Al Capone.
Al Capone.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, London has become synonymous with Jack the Ripper.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, it's one of those things that you kind of sit in awe over, because for 130 years, nobody knew who did it.
Well, the police did. The heads of the case, they always knew. But yeah, as long as they knew who it was, that was it. But the one thing that we don't want to miss out here is, how did we know it was Aaron Kosminski? How did the police know it was him? And what that was just after the last murder of Mary Kelly, who he completely butchered, by the way, and she was only 25, is he tried to kill his own sister with a knife. So his brothers had him arrested. And because it was such a, this could be possibly the murderer, that there was only one eyewitness. And that's one thing that Scotland Yard, this story I'm going to tell you now is what Scotland Yard told me. And what Scotland Yard said was, they took Aaron Kosminski out of London and they took him to a seaside retirement home near Brighton, on the south coast of England, out of public gaze. So they didn't want to attract any attention that they've got a suspect, the first real suspect in the murders. They then took the only one true eyewitness, which I had to find. So that was the task set. I was tasked with finding who I thought the genuine eyewitness was, and it was Israel Swartz. And I'll tell you why it was him, because he was the only witness to see a man attacking one of the murder victims minutes before she was found murdered. And that was Elizabeth Stride,
right?
So that's the story of Israel Swartz, Elizabeth Stride, on, again, the night of the double event, the night of the 29th of September 1888. So they took Israel Swartz down to the seaside home where they held Kosminski, and they confronted Aaron Kosminski with Israel Swartz, and Israel Swartz gave an unhesitating ID that that was the man he saw attacking Elizabeth Stride on the night she was murdered. They took him out, they gave him 10 minutes, and then they reconfronted him. And then they knew that that was the man who was the murderer. But Israel Swartz wouldn't testify. And one, there's a story of Jews to Gentile justice, but there's a very strict code back in the Jewish community that I'm aware of, that if you see a crime being committed and you don't report it, you're as guilty as the perpetrator. But for whatever reason, true reason, Israel Swartz would not testify. And because it was a confrontation and not a formal identification, that confrontation was considered a weak ID. That's the story. So they had to do something with Aaron Kosminski. They got the Ripper, but they couldn't prosecute him. So this was like whether it was a huge, I wouldn't say the F word here, but a huge mistake or a mess that the police had caused for themselves. They thought, well, we've got him now, we've got the witness, that's it. No, you can't. But because of the identification, that they messed that up properly. So they put him under charge of his brother. They put 2 detectives on Kosminski, hence we know there's no other Ripper murders. So there were murders after Francis Coles, Alice Mackenzie, they weren't Ripper murders. But they put him into an asylum in 1891 called Colney Hatch. Again, 7th of February. So it was around about now, 1891. Very close to the February when I discovered who it was. But that's what happened to him. Now there's a gap of time, but if you read the story, there was only 5 months. So Mary Jane Kelly was discovered on the 9th of November 1888. Kosminski was incarcerated in March 1889 when they went through identification. It was a short amount of time. And what I did, there's 2 new bits of evidence that I've discovered. Again, thanks to lockdown, I've had more time, apart from writing the second book, was that they put him in Mile End Workhouse. So they put him it's called Stepney Workhouse as well, but they put him in a workhouse, put him under guard, let him out with his brother, put him back in, and then put him in the asylum. And everything I've got now, not just only matches through the science, but also through the research. So this Masonic conspiracy, a police conspiracy, no, not really. It's not that at all. It really is as simple as a schizophrenic maniac Jewish immigrant inflicting whatever was going on in his head on these poor 5 women, and he was locked away. Lived literally a stone's throw away from the murders. In fact, the night that Israel Swartz saw Aaron Kosminski attacking Elizabeth Stride, where Aaron Kosminski lived was literally 500 yards away from door to door to the murders. It was that close.
What was the longest walk from the furthest murder scene to Kaminsky's home.
That's Catherine Eddowes. So if you stand at, again, what I've done in the research is, and I'll do it with you if you ever get over to see me, is from the murder scene to Mitre Square. It's actually slow, fast. So you go, so it's basically Berners Street, which is now Henrique Street. Commercial Road is at the end. It's a main road. If he was seen going that way, he would have been definitely seen. So if you go to the right of Duffield Yard, which is the murder scene of Elizabeth Stride, you turn right, you've got Fairclough Street. You've got the house called Fairclough Street to the right. You go a bit further on, you've got another street, Boyd Street. Then you walk to the right and you go the back way. Very easy to get to Mitre Square. It takes, on average, 10 minutes, 30 seconds on average. And he had about half an hour. He had half an hour. Now, where Catherine Eddowes went, because she was arrested for being drunk and disorderly about 8 o'clock on that evening of the 29th, and she was locked away in Bishopsgate Police Station. They let her out at 1 o'clock in the morning, and she walked down a road called Houndsditch to what's called St. Botolph's Church. Now, St. Botolph's Church is a stone's throw away from Mitre Square. But St. Botolph's Church was known as the Prostitutes' Church because about 8 minutes away is the docks. As I said to you with the IRA, so the Finians and the explosives, the docks is just down the road. So a sailor would come up to St. Botolph's Church, and that's where you pick up your prostitute before you go out on, shore leave to cheap drugs and alcohol in the East End. So she obviously went there to try and get some money, and the Ripper went there, or Kosminski went there, knowing that he had a good chance of picking up a prostitute. And again, going the opposite direction into the city, away from the murder of Elizabeth Stride, because everyone's going to Elizabeth Stride's murder, because that's another Ripper murder. And here we have him going the opposite way. So that's what happened.
It's amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm speechless. I mean,
yeah, it's one of those things that we find ourselves just in awe listening to you talk, because it's something we've studied forever and something we've looked into forever ourselves as enthusiasts more than anything else. I call myself a amateur historian.
You're very knowledgeable, man. Just
because I love to read research and watch documentaries and stuff like that. It's really my thing. But what amazes us is hearing the case laid out the way you lay it out.
Yes.
And knowing how well from reading your book, we know how well it all fits.
Yeah.
And it blows away. The big question that we had left in our minds, especially this one back here. The big question she had left in her mind. You want to ask him?
The kidney.
Yeah.
DNA.
The kidney cell.
The kidney cell. Did you guys trace it back?
Yeah. So with the kidney cell, that's something we've got up our sleeve on that. So the question is, so Yori, we had to go to Manchester, Yori and I, to go to do some very specific. Well, Yori did the work. I just took it. Was to analyze the cell on a very huge molecular level. So not just like, let's have a little look. And no, this was very, very intense what he had to do. So I wasn't even allowed into the labs to do this one. I was quite perturbed, but never mind. And he said, you know what? He says, he said he found a Victorian worm, micro worm he found. I said, oh, thanks, I love this. And then he said, I found a kidney cell. I said, how do you know it's a kidney cell? He says, it's the size of the cell. They're bigger than regular cells, so that's how we found the kidney cell. I said, would we ever need to do the work? I said, well, to be honest, Russ, you've got the you've got the 100% match with the blood and the descendant, and you've got the 100% match with the semen and the descendant. We've got a kidney cell if we ever needed to do that, because it's sort of, we've done it to the nth degree of work, which again is ready for the second book, which is also what we've been doing in the last 5 years as well. Is the next chapter, if you like, in this. The journey of discovery finished when on that February 2014, because we knew we got it. It was then, what do we do to not just convince these not just the naysayers, the people with a vested interest in refuting the science, refuting the story, refuting the truth. That's what we've spent the last 5 years doing. Actually, now I say 5 years, nearly 6. 2014 is 2021 now, so it's a bit longer than like 4 or 5 years. But we've done a huge amount of work to sort of belt and braces this over and above any other science that's ever been done in history. Okay, so we've gone over to a degree of, well, there's no more that can be done. I'm dying to say, there's just a few things that we've been doing, and it would, I know this, again, we don't want to publicize this because it's also a bit of timing like the last time, but we don't want to say, but it is all hugely significant what we've got now. But the kidney cell is one of those up our sleeve for the next chapter, if you like. But it's a kidney cell. So he took a kidney. What's a kidney cell doing on there? So.
If he did take her kidney out, and
He did, yeah.
And taking her kidney out and leaving a cell on the. And I've often thought this too. I've often said, ever since I started reading your book, I've often wondered in my mind, he kills her. He's got to get back home.
Yeah.
Does he take this shawl with him, not only to leave it as a marker and a sign for the cops to say, this is when I'm going to do my next killing, but does he wipe his knife off and his hands off on the shawl?
No, that was a piece of Catherine O'Hara's apron. So, interestingly, why the tours are so popular, number one is because the Jack the Ripper story, but they're very, very close. You could walk this whole story in 15, 20 minutes. The murders are so lit, you can stand and you can point. This is where that murder was, this is where the 10 Bells pub is. You can lit it that small an area. Only Mitre Square and Berners Street, and that's because of where he lived, and he knew he could get a prostitute down by Mitre Square in the prostitutes' church. But yeah, so the significance of the direction that he went in. I've got a little gift for you.
More? I can't handle more.
So on here, there was a guy called Forster who drew the murder scene of Mitre Square at the time. Now, if you ever come to London, the actual original is in the museum behind the London Hospital. So there's the Mitre Square. There's upside down. There's a picture of Catherine. This is where she was found. But what he had two directions the Ripper would have made his escape, and they were drawn. So I don't know if you can see that. So they drew with the two escape routes.
Yep.
Because they did find a piece of bloodied apron on the floor of a hallway with the in chalk, the Jews of the men are not be blamed for nothing.
Yep.
But so we knew the direction, so he was going east. What's not commonly known, which is what I'm just about to tell you, is Osborne Street, which is at the other end of Brick Lane, which is where Polly Nichols was last seen alive by her friend Emily Holland on the night she was murdered. There's a stone trough, like a bath to you, like you get some water.
Right.
In the front hall, you see the prostitutes washing themselves in the morning. That had blood in it. A police officer found fresh blood, sort of blood in the trough. So we knew that he went from Mitre Square to Goulton Street, which is where that graffito was, to Osborne Street. So it's sort of like a line to the direction he was going. And then all you have to do with that line is go for another 2 minutes, and that's directly to Kosminski's front door.
Wow.
That is crazy, man.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, I've said it before and I'll say it again. In my mind, this case is closed. After reading your book, after talking to you today, in my mind, this case is closed.
I mean, this is so overwhelming and so compelling. The evidence, I mean, it's there. It says.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
We'll all just fall out.
Thank you.
We're done.
it's what most people, I think, in the UK, what most people don't understand about us Americans is we've always had an interest in the macabre. If
Yeah.
you go all the way back to the time of Jack, you had P.T. Barnum
Yes.
and those guys creating these huge circuses and stuff, and they the freak shows, and they
The freak
traveled
shows.
around, and everybody went to them. And
Yeah.
so this story of Jack the Ripper from the UK for us, it's like a part of our culture here. It's as much a part of us as it is you guys over there. We love to hear it. We love to watch it. And no joke, some of the most viewed documentaries on YouTube are documentaries about Jack the Ripper.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there was
So, and I don't think it's just the U.S. I think it's pretty much worldwide that everybody knows this story, and to finally hear the conclusion of it to us is just so amazing. It just blows us away.
Yeah. Well, thank you. You know, again, I have written the second book through lockdown. In there takes it to another level. So what I've given you is what's the story, but the next chapter is, you know, again, you will hate me for not telling you.
No.
You know what I'll do is when we finish, I'll tell you, because I'm dying to
I
tell
want to
someone.
know when are you publishing the next book?
Okay, so we would have done it this year. We're in the middle of negotiations, TV companies and stuff. So I'm all under contract. I can't really say. We've got two very major book deals. One place not too popular in the world right now, and another in France. So it looks like, again, with this catastrophe that we've all had to go through for the last year, it may be this year, maybe next year.
Well, as soon as it comes out, we're buying a copy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
It'll be on my shelf.
Yes.
you know, and I love the way you say how compelling it is, especially over here, how we take an interest, because, and I know it has nothing to do with it. And you're just talking about documentaries and stuff. And I believe it was H.H. Holmes' great grandson try to prove that he thought his great grandfather was Jack the Ripper. And I absolutely love that you were able to go, you know what? No, dude, this is what I got. I'm going to show you what it is. Dude,
You want to see the email from him? He sent to me. He sent me an email. He's like, you know, can I borrow the shawl to do some work? I said, listen, you're wasting your time. To say H.H. Holmes with Jack the Ripper is a bigger reach to say that there's aliens in Pluto that come and eat here and pretend to be human beings. You know? It's like H.H. Holmes, fascinating story. And I know that there's a film with great actor Leonardo DiCaprio. Thought he's bought the rights to do a film.
Right.
Fascinating. Do you know what, that guy in himself, the story? But again, he wasn't Jack the Ripper.
Right.
You know, he did. Mudgett's his name. He did send me an email saying, could I pick your brains? And I said, you know what, mate, I'm not wasting my time.
And another thing about the book is I love that you actually went into and did you did talk some about the other theories out there. One of my favorite theories was the whole, you know, Queen Victoria being involved and her son and her doctor.
The doctor, yes.
Yeah, and I've always
Really
to me that was always a stretch. Even when I seen From Hell for the first time, that was a pretty big stretch.
It was.
Yeah.
But you know,
that's the most common question I get. Was it the prince? No.
No. And no, I never once thought that he would have been the murderer, the prince, but
he was. Prince Albert Victor was wrapped up in a lot of scandal. You know, if you look at his story, he actually invented, well, his claim to invented his own special sex position chair. Not sex position as an exposition, but a sexual position chair that he actually, when he was in France. There is again in From Hell, there's there's one scene where it says Cleveland Street, just one. Now Cleveland Street, there was a scandal in the late 19th century that was a gay brothel, and I think that's where I wouldn't even say of one of our notable authors was caught there, but he was, there's meant to have been links there. Again, guys, what it is look at the facts, go and do the research yourself. That's the only way you can do something so significant in the story. Is you can't just pick up a book, take someone's word for it. You have to do the work. And again, it took me, I don't know, 14, 15 years to do it all.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I gotta wonder though, what did he do with the body parts after
I've been told this.
uterus? Like, what did he do with them?
Now I've taken some paranormal groups around with me. I've had the Home Office with me, the Ministry of Justice with me, coroners with me. I've had everybody with me. But these paranormal people told me things that only I know. And one of them said when he took skin or he took the body parts, we know that in the From Hell letter, which I've got a copy of, if you want to see it, that's the one where it was sent with the kidney, that he ate half the kidney. Apparently, somebody's drawn me a picture. I've got it here somewhere. That he would look into a mirror with cutlery laid out very specifically, and he would eat and watch himself eating the flesh and eating the body parts, as if he'd taken ownership, which we do know about cannibal killers, as you know, that he was taking ownership of the souls or the body,
Right.
But again, you know what? That's speculation, not scientific fact, which is how I've got my story. But just to think, here we are, just four of us just talking on camera right now. Think of what those women went through. Think of him taking the body. I mean, what type of mindset does it take somebody? Go back to Ted Bundy, go back to all. What mindset? You've got a uterus and you've got a kidney. You've just taken them from a live human being. You're going back and you're going to eat them and prepare them in a special way. Where's this man's head at? Where is he? Do you know what I mean? Not where is he geographically? Where is he?
Right.
Right.
Mentally, yeah.
Mm.
And the truth is, at that time, there wasn't the mental health facilities there are today.
Oh no.
That
Silence.
and you do in a sense, you almost feel a bit of empathy for him because he had no shot at ever getting any help.
No, but again, there was many of them there as well. Remember, they would torture them. So I again go through research. I think it was Switzerland or France. They started the first lobotomies back then, round about this time, and I wondered if they lobotomized them because obviously I've got all those case records from the asylums, but there's no evidence of that. What they more than likely did was lithium, so they would have just completely, sort of a walking zombie type thing,
Yeah.
But that's what they did to many of them. And again, the Metropolitan Archives over in a place called Farringdon by London King's Cross, they've got the photographs of these inmates, and in there I've got them here of what they did to these, what they did to the inmates, and it wasn't pleasant. It's very much your horror story asylum film of torture and abuse over and above what I don't know what's going on in modern day society in Broadmoor, but I do know it was horrendous. I've got some very they're just not appropriate in this day and age.
Right.
Just so you know as well, there's about a 20-year gap missing from what they did to him because they used to keep case files every 6 months. There's a gap with this, just so you know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man.
I got one more big question for you, and that is, how did the families react when you gave them the news that you had solved the case?
So this is a big one for me. So when I knew I'd got it, which is the February, the female descendants of Kathleen Eddowes, I called and I went to see her, and she was the first one, and I told her, you know what, we've got it, we've nailed it, we've got the proof now, and she held me so tight. In fact, there's a picture of us in the book, Karen and I, It was there when I told her, and she held me so tight and we were nearly in tears of thank you. That the hard to describe. Just
Yeah.
Thank you. You know, it was yeah, and that was mainly it with Karen. Her and I are quite close. There's another descendant. In fact, there's a few. With me, you said something before, and it keeps pulling me back in. It did keep pulling me back in. So I lived in St Albans for a couple of years, quite recently. And would you believe I live around the corner from one of her descendants? I only found her on social media. And again, when I went to go and try to go and see her because of something we did a year and a half ago, she died. So I'm not saying everyone comes across me dies, but she died. I'm in touch with her brother. But this is a lot later on. We only had a connection with Karen because she was first to the link with us. With Polly Nichols' descendants, they got a little bit of short and they helped Mudge it on the H.H. Holmes documentary. Didn't get anywhere with it though because there's no semen on the bit that they've got. They're very supportive. They're very good friends of mine. If you don't know, Polly Nichols, the first murder victim, a lot of her descendants are police officers. So that was a good one.
Wow.
And obviously Karen, the descendants of Karen, she worked with the police as well. So it's interesting that they've taken that pathway, you know, through, you know. Again, there's descendants in Wolverhampton who I see, and again, I unveiled a plaque over in the UK. I don't know in the US is someone famous would have a blue plaque saying the name and when they lived in that property. Well, I unveiled the one for Catherine Eddowes in tribute to her. And I met a lot of the family there, you know, and they're all, you know, again, full of praise. It's lovely to be recognised for what I've done, rather than be criticised by people who just don't want the truth to be told. So the discipline I've learned since 2014 was just ignore the haters, because it's just not even worth going there because they just don't matter, not really.
We say that a lot in the paranormal field because for every piece of evidence that you put out there, there's going to be 20 people that are going to refute it just because they don't believe or they don't want you to have the right answer.
Yeah.
And unfortunately that is true, but sorry, I promised a friend of mine I'd put our banner up and I forgot all about it until just now.
Well, it's too interesting. Who cares about banners?
Yeah, who cares about banners? This is the greatest thing ever.
Right. I mean, you have your stories and there's everything, especially, you know, starting this podcast. I mean, I knew we would do some pretty cool, maybe celebrities, you know, whatever, but this, I mean, I myself am a huge serial killer person. I mean, we got a show coming up for my birthday where I'm just going to talk about ones, you know,
American serial killers.
But I mean, you're talking
The man.
the biggest serial killer out there, and a case that has been for so many years just not closed. And this.
And I want to express to everyone too, the big thing is, you know, when it comes to Jack the Ripper, you can go on YouTube, you can watch all of those documentaries. And I have, trust me.
Yeah, trust me.
None of them have definitive proof.
No.
None of them. Not one. Until I read this book.
I know.
Until I read your story, that's when I said, this guy nailed it.
Yeah.
He's got the proof.
Yeah. He came to me and he said, I did a Google search and
that's literally how I came across your name.
I found this guy named Russell Edwards and I ordered his book and I do a lot of the reading and then I pass it on to the guys. I normally like screen it first. And he's like, this book's coming in. You need to read it. He names the Ripper. And I'm like, really? This is what I've got to do? Okay. Fine. And you can ask him. I read your book in 2 days. I could not put it down. I was like, oh, I need to know. I need to know the next chapter. I need to know the next page. I need to know everything about this.
And and you came to me and you're like, dude, I got this guy named Russell Edwards. and he can name Jack the Ripper. I'm like, what? He goes, can we land? Put him on the show. And I'm like, yes. And you're like, why are you asking me? Just do it, man. Do yes. I mean,
yeah, Crystal and I aren't normally the host. We do the research and history and things like that for him, for Scott, and for Jeremy York, and they're normally our host. And so when we do a show, it's normally because one of these guys are ill, or they just have another obligation at the time and can't do it.
Yeah, but when we said we're doing Russell Edwards, and after I read the book, I was like, guess what, guys? I'm on the
Yes.
screen.
yeah.
I don't care what
We
you have
were
to say.
all fighting over who got to do this interview.
No, I did offer to sit down and sit back, and I'm
Yeah,
good
but
with
I'm
that.
not
Yeah.
gonna do that to you.
Well, and I always tell people I can be on this show and talk, but these two are the backbone. Like, they are the reason why this show runs like it does. They really are. I mean, without these two, there is no podcast, and I mean that. I mean,
It
I do
is.
what I
but just so you know, thank you so much.
Yeah, Russell, everybody asked me where all my hair went, and I tell them I had 3 teenage daughters. So
Yeah.
I literally ripped it out by the handfuls.
yeah.
But
That's
I
what people do,
can't express enough how grateful we are for all of your hard work, Russell.
Yes.
Honored we are to even
Yeah.
have you on this show. This little show. This is a little show compared to so many other podcasts out there, and for you to come and be on our show, I am absolutely flabbergasted and floored and honored.
Yes, and we want to thank you for accepting our invite and everything. But I wanted to personally thank you for writing this book and for all your hard work. In reading it, I realized, doing research ourselves, her and I, we realized how many years and how many
This wasn't an overnight quick, oh, hey,
You
I know
know,
who it is.
how many times a door was slammed shut and you
Yeah.
kept persevering and found an open door over here. So we understand all the hard work that you had to put up to accomplish this. And we wanted to say thank you. And really, I think the world owes you
Yeah.
a debt of gratitude. You and your
Absolutely.
friends, Yari and
David
everybody who worked on the project.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
The world owes you guys a thank you, because you guys have put to rest an age-old whodunit.
Yep.
Even though, like you said, the police knew, but they never could definitively prove in a court of law.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even though they knew, you were the one that brought it out to the world, and we want to thank you for that.
Absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It really is amazing for us. I mean, you keep seeing us smile and put our heads down and cover our mouths. It's literally because
It's
we
fascinating.
have been in anticipation of this interview since I talked to you in October.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where we already had people scheduled as guests, and we were like, I got to keep waiting.
Right. Yes.
So we are just absolutely thrilled to have you on our show and to talk about it. And
And just the emotion behind it all. Like I said, behind the camera before we even went live, I was already teary-eyed, and you brought the show out, dude, and it just started flowing again. The emotions from all of it. I mean,
well, I mean, we have to go back and remember that people were put in a position with overcrowding. They were put in a position with low work, low wages.
Yep.
It was hard times,
No
and people
food,
had to
yep.
do what they had to do.
They were human. They were human
And
too.
while Aaron Kaminsky had mental health issues, he also still took advantage of that.
Yeah.
In a way that was grotesque and absolutely gruesome.
yep.
And so that emotion that we feel today is the same emotion that those women deserve.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Well put.
Yeah, they were human. They weren't. They didn't want
They're
that
speechless.
lifestyle. They didn't have a choice.
That's it. No choices for them. Yeah.
All right, close her up.
Yeah. So Russell, we're gonna. If you will hang out for just a minute, we'll be right back with you. We're going to close out the recording here for the show. We want everybody to remember that the three of us will be live in the comments when this airs, which will be Friday the 19th. Russell, you're more than welcome to stay up and watch when it airs. It'll be 1 o'clock in the morning for you next Saturday.
Friday. Oh yeah, Saturday.
It'll be Saturday morning for you. It'll be 1 to 3 over there, which is why we recorded it. But we want to thank you so much for being on our show.
Absolutely.
It was an absolute honor and a pleasure.
Extremely honored.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, just hang on a minute. We'll be right back with you.
Sure.
Oh, I'm clicking.
Well. That was one hell of an interview.
Yeah.
It was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Cannot hear you guys. Crystal, Tim, cannot hear you.
There we go. Better?
Sorry, we turned the mic
Yes.
off. You know, with the dogs and the animals.
So, Russell, you talked about in your book a picture of you and Karen, and I just wanted to show.
Yeah.
That is from the book there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I wanted to show that.
Yeah.
Oh,
But I'm so glad that you all were able to watch with us.
Yeah.
Thank you all for sharing out the show. It's important, I think. I think it's important that we share this story, that more people become, are made aware of it. And I once again, I'm speechless.
Russell, is there anything you would like to tell our viewers, Russell? I know, give you a chance to say whatever you wanted, brother.
Just watch this space. Don't believe the lots of stuff that's very negative about me. There's lots of people got a vested interest to say this is not real. Well, it is. We do have another part. We have a part 2 to this. That's taken yet another 5 years, and I can't wait to reveal that as well.
will you be back with
Thanks
us
for
when you can reveal
Yeah.
that? Will you come back with us?
Absolutely,
Awesome.
yeah.
Thank
We
you
are so very much looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
So much.
Yeah. There is one thing that I have noticed when I was reading up on the story, and I apologize if you guys have already covered it, but one thing that I noticed about Kosminski is that he was taken away in 1891, right?
Yeah.
And I
He
noticed
was first arrested in 89.
What's
March of 80. He was first arrested in March of 89 and then moved from one place to another place in 91.
Okay. Because I had noticed that the very last of the murders, the ones that suspected to be his, was in early 91.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are only actually 5 known victims.
Right.
I personally subscribe to your theory, Russell, that there's actually 6 victims, but
Just
And I think
remember, Jeremy, there were 11 murders 5 were of the Whitechapel murders over 2 years. 5 of those were attributed to Jack the Ripper. But there were other murders in the area, but the MO was not the same.
Right. There were some similarities, but the big parts weren't there.
That's right.
It's just I want everybody out there to know too. The minute I asked Russell to do this interview with us, he was like, absolutely. And he was literally very gracious. I mean, it's very late where he is. He's still up with us. We can't tell you how much we appreciate that.
Yeah.
We understand we're up late all the time too.
Yeah, Jeremy.
Yep.
Him.
Yeah. And
Especially last night.
so we want to say a very special thank you. There's been a lot of people that we've reached out to do interviews and things, and they don't even answer us.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of guy this guy is. He loves to tell this story. It's obvious that he's passionate about it. It's obvious that we're passionate about it. the 4 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obvious from watching the comments tonight how passionate more people just became of this project, or of your book and of your science and of your research. So once again, I just want to take time to say a very special thank you to Russell, because you've been more than great.
Thank you, guys.
It's been our pleasure having you on.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
and you guys don't get to see, normally after we interview a guest, we talk to them, as you kind of seen towards the end of that, we talk to them afterwards. And we told Russell he has made some new friends in the US. So we will be keeping in touch with you. We still need to get you a 13th Dimension shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be sending the book so you can autograph it for us.
Once again, everybody, the book, I bought it from Amazon, so I know it's on there.
Yep.
Are there any other places that you can go get it, Russell?
Yeah, you can buy it directly from me.
Oh,
There you go.
Yeah. So people, you can message me, and I can sign it and then just post it to you. Yeah.
absolutely
We got
wonderful.
a lot of people in the chat room that are wanting signed copies from you.
So what I used to do is I used to park the car by the final murder scene, which is always by the square, and it's always packed. I fill the boot full of books, and I used to have queues literally of people on the stand, literally at the back of the boot of my car, which is where I started as a kid, selling teddy bears. Yeah, you can buy it directly from me. Yeah.
Stephen, the shawl is normally kept in a bank vault.
Is that correct?
He just happened to have it last Saturday. The horseshoe came back in effect for us
Yes.
last Saturday. So
Yeah, we borrowed Russell's horseshoe when we did this interview.
Yes.
And we can't tell you how much we appreciate you taking so much time and so much effort to make this show as
Yeah.
special as it was. And
Guys.
and to share this with our viewers, because I'll tell you now, all these viewers that you've seen in the comments tonight, new and old, they're some of the most loyal viewers you will ever see,
Mm-hmm.
most loyal people you will ever meet. And when they say wow, they mean wow. And that's where we're all sitting at today, is wow.
Thank you for showing such an interest in my little story.
not quite so little, but yeah.
No,
I have a feeling
it
that,
doesn't get any bigger than Jack the Ripper. It really doesn't.
I have a feeling that in the future you're going to be asked to get that shell out a lot more. I have a feeling that you're going to have to do some big time news interviews in the future. So
But don't forget the little 13th
yeah,
dimension.
please don't forget the little 13th dimension.
I definitely won't, guys.
And I am absolutely become your biggest fan right now with this interview. I'm your biggest fan, dude.
Biggest little fan.
And yes.
Mm.
Yeah, I've known Scotty for 25 years, and that little dog right there that little dog has a mean bite, but he's the most loyal you'll ever meet.
Yes. Yep.
So when he says he's your biggest fan, he is your biggest fan. He's going to start a fan club.
At 5'1".
All right. Well, Russell, we know it's late where you're at. We want you to be able to get some
Yep.
sleep. We'll be in contact with you. So,
Yeah, sure. Okay, guys.
night.
Thank you.
And thank you so much,
Thank you.
Russell.
So much.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
all right, guys.
Wow.
What in the. Okay.
Wow.
Dang, we're still in prime time. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm taking the little petri dish. What in the hell just happened?
Dude, that is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That was history. That's what just happened. History. I mean, this is literally going to change the history books.
So for everyone out there who's still with us, we want to say thank you for watching.
Definitely.
Yes.
Thank you
so much.
for giving your time and your determination. We love you all. We're so appreciative of the comments tonight.
Yes. And I am sorry about the Wi-Fi hookup. I made absolutely sure that nothing was going to happen. I had my regular PC off. My phone is still turned off. And I was still having those hiccups. So I don't know what happened there.
If it doesn't happen on the 13th dimension where something goes wrong, it's not the 13th dimension.
Exactly.
Facts.
Yeah.
So next week, guys, it's some guy's birthday.
And we're going to be talking more serial killer history.
That's right.
And
And we
wait.
may have a very, very special happy birthday video from one Mr. Wilson.
Mm. Dude,
I
I
am
am
not
so excited.
responsible.
I am.
I claim no responsibility for this one because I know I'm the next victim.
Dude, I'm excited. I can't wait to continue talking about serial killers. You know, one of my favorites, Kemper, and just oh man, I'm stoked, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like
Kemper,
ready.
Bundy, Gein. We're going to cover several of them next week.
Is
Yep.
2 hours going to be enough time for you, Scotty?
Oh,
no,
yeah.
that's why
I
we're going
think
to have
so.
this in several segments throughout the year.
Probably. Just like the conspiracy theories, we're going to have to do several episodes of those.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And at some point in time, I'd like to do a little something on a certain bearded man who went R a lot.
You?
Ooh,
No.
Oh,
I think I know who he's talking about.
We can do that, man. We can definitely do that.
Are we going to be talking about buried treasure?
Could be. And cannon fuses wrapped in that very special beard.
that's your birthday.
Yeah,
Jack
that
Sparrow.
can be my birthday.
Jack Sparrow.
Close, not quite.
I know.
Although if we can get Johnny Depp to come on, hey, I'm down.
If we get Johnny Depp to come on, I'm doing that interview. You guys can just go.
If we get Johnny Depp, Crystal, you can be the sole interviewer.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, we're gonna head out. Who wants to go with us?
So just remember, guys, if it's paranormal,
Or beyond.
We got it covered.
have a good night, everybody.
Good night,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.